Yeah, we'll start with Gimel. We're learning the Maimer Uvachamisha Asar Yom, obviously the 15th day of Tishrei, which is the holiday of Sukkot. And this Hasidic discourse was said in 1970 on the second day of Sukkot. Yeah, we're holding by in the middle of Gimel.
On Samach? On Testament.
Oh, let's start with Gimel and that's it. So far we ended off that there is on Yom Kippur, there's a revelation of Atzmus, of Hashem's essence, and the Hasidus learns it from Parshas Achei. The pasuk says about the service of the high priest on the day of Yom Kippur. It says Ki be'anon eirah lakaperes, that with they brought the Ketores, the high priest would bring the incense offering on the altar, or would actually bring it into the Holy of Holies. And there was a cloud, a smoke ceiling that was created.
Right.
And the Rebbe tells us that Eroe is the referencing to the Atmos, to the essence of godliness, revelation of the essence. So what is Sukkot is all about? To take the essence and to bring it in. It's a revelation. It doesn't mean I took it in. Sukkot is about taking it in. How do we take it in Sukkot? By the mitzvah of Daled Minim, the four species that we take. Lulav, the Esrog, Adosim, Ovis. And what does it do? Besides bringing the Asus in an inner way, Gilu Simcha, it's called Zman Simcha Seinu. Zman Simcha Seinu, the time of our Simcha, which continues to Shmini Atzeres, to the 8th day of Sukkot, and Simchas Torah, the 9th day of Sukkot. So Gimel, right? V'yuvan PM V'vu b'mayim Chag HaSukkos Tafrish Lamed. Fnei Mea Shana. Rebbe brings Rabbi Marash said a Maimer in 1870. Dibur Amad Chilovin Sheresh Inyan Makifim Dabin Shimshach Modeh Sukkah. Says we need to understand what does it mean. This the root of the encompassing powers in Bina that are drawn through the Sukkah. Shevei Shamayim Retz Chaim שארן סב מאיר בקסר ובכוח ובקיר ובמקום ובין הבריחו כמוקם. I mentioned yesterday Ein Sof would reveal itself in Keser, in the crown, the levels that transcends wisdom with closeness, even into wisdom with closeness, and comes to Bina. The revelation would be from afar, Zerampin through a chalon, Malchus through Nekev. To a little Zerampin, there's more concealment, goes through a window, and Malchus is through Nekev, through a hole. Obviously, it just describes less and less revelation. Although the revelation has to go through more concealment. And then the world of emanation gives the world of creation, formation, and action through partition, through screens. Oh, so this is what we ended off with. How can you say that in the higher world there is kiruv mokem v'richuk mokem? Certain things that are close and certain things that are distant. First of all, the higher world seemingly the whole definition of place is not associated with the higher worlds, because Mokim has to do with limitation. Chayim, the Pirush Mokim, Mailu Madriga. Pirush Mokim, when you say Mokim, it's only in reference to Madriga, a level. לא שייך למעלה גדר מוקם. חייב פירוש מוקם רק מעלה מדרגה בכנס מעלה ומטה. היינו מה שיש לו איתו מעלה לכן זה נקרא מעלה. מה ששכל ומידס, שהשכל נקרא מעלה גבי המידס. So he says, really, when we say close and far, it doesn't necessarily mean close and far in distant. The distance is close or the distance is far. Rather, it speaks about higher level, lower level. So Chachma would be higher than Midos and the emotive attributes. Why? Because it has, Chachma is superior to the Midos, to the emotive attributes. V'chein Odom Shechom Godel, someone that is extremely wise person. It has intellectual advantage over his friend. It's called Adam Godel. Call him a great man, but he's a great man only in comparison to his friend. Because he has an advantage over his friend. ולאויר ממה שכוסף הרמב"ם, פרק בייס, מהלכות סדעתיר. Rambam writes, we got to מעלה ומטה, higher and lower, במלוכים סחולים נבדל. זה שאמרנו למטה ומיילוס ושחברו. One is lower than his friend. It's like saying that one, take two rabbis and say one rabbi is greater than his friend in wisdom. Because he has greater advantage. Like we said that the cause is higher than the effect. Doesn't mean physically one is 10 feet high and one is 5 feet high. Rather, it means one is superior to the other. So it says, that's what the statement of the Rambam. And the two examples that were mentioned in Maimer, one from intellect and emotive attributes, Chad Misechel Midas, Shasechel Nikom Milo, the intellect is called higher Legabe Midas in comparison to the Midas because it has advantage over because it has superiority over emotive attributes. And intellect dominates the emotions with a normal person. Seichel is the cause, and the Midas is the effect. Shemimenu boys are midas shenol. The midas are coming from the seichel, the intellect. That's one example. Higher and low. Not that the emotions are positioned higher and low. Even though we do say that the intellectual faculties are in the head and the emotive attributes are in the heart. But he says there's no such a thing as malo mata. We're talking about higher in greatness, in superiority, and lower would mean in lower in level, lower level. Another example of someone that is extremely smart. Piece of human What does it mean, closeness and afar? In godliness, wherever there is great level of illumination from the infinite light of godliness, it's called kiruv moker. Also, the concept of kiruv and richuk, closeness, and being from afar, means that someone that completely is not involved with the subject you're teaching, you have to add more words, you have to lower the wisdom that you are teaching to his level, because he's far from it. But I mean, so lower his intellect, b'dibu. Ashpil is almost like to humble it. Shezeu tachli is kol ha'inyanim. Shtiam shochav b'chinas malchus. This is the essence of everything. To have amshocha b'chinas malchus. To bring everything down to malchus. What is malchus? Malchus is dibu. How do we know malchus is dibu? So it's supposed to be malchus peh. Malchus representative is the mouth. What is the purpose of all the definite godly levels, manifestations, is that ultimately should come to Malchus. Should be lowered to Malchus. And what Malchus is going to do with it? To give life to the world. To create the worlds, to give life to the worlds. So when talk about humbling the intellect, so he says like this: intellect first encloses itself in thought. There, it receives letters, receives words, forms letters and words. And from there, it goes from seichel to levels that are below the seichel, below intellect. From intellect to levels that are below. And then travels from thought to emotions. Why does it need emotions? Because you want to impact your friend, so you have to use emotions also with your intellect. So some kind of excitement, right? Or strictness, or whatever it is, or whatever the message is that you are transmitting, has to come with emotions. Either we do it intuitively, or we do it automatically, instinctively. Imagine a great orator would say his speech without emotions.
And everybody would fall asleep. And they'd be very boring.
You might not connect with the idea.
Right.
Even though if you would have listened to what he says, it could be brilliant things. But
delivery is so much of it.
Right, delivery is like 70%, I believe, of what they say. So it goes from seichel to machshava, from machshava to midos, intellect to thought transfers it ultimately to creating forms, is forming letters, words, and then it travels to the emotive attributes. It says in order for you to impact your friend, what you're telling him needs to come out of the heart. Heartfelt speech. It's known, it's written in Sefer HaYosher, also brought down in the Shla. Sefer HaYosher is, I believe, attributed to Rabbeinu Tam, not sure. Who wrote Sefer HaYosher? Now got me curious. Yeah, Rabbeinu Tam. They say it's probably Rabbeinu Tam or Rabbi Yonah Girundi, but over here it's written as Rabbeinu Tam. It was Baal HaTosfos, G'dayla Baal HaTosfos.
He's the greatest of them.
That's what it says. Yeah.
That's like when we put on two credits.
It's Sefer HaYosher in general, meaning the book of the upright. The book of the upright one. Anyhow, so what was brought down in Sefer HaYosher, Rabbeinu Tam, and the Shla Kodesh also brings it, Rabbi Shayahu Levi Horowitz.
The general is a descendant of him. Was his guy comes around it.
Yeah. Your wife is probably also related.
Right.
She's a Levite also?
Her mother, through her mother.
Through her mother, she's a Levite? So, as it goes from Midas to Dibu, said it has to be with Dvorim HaYotzim Min HaLev. So from emotions it goes into speech, and the Dibu Meir HaSechel V'Ruchuk Mokum. So the Dibu is already too far from the Seichel, because remember, intellect was in the beginning. Then intellect gave to thought, and thought formed the letters and words and gave it to the emotions. The emotions handed it over to the speech. So there's lots of different levels. So that's the concept of Richuk Mokim. Intellect has to go from one level to the next until it encloses itself in Dibu. So on the other hand, Seichel and Machshava, intellect and thought, are very close to each other. Because you cannot have Seichel you cannot have understanding, Machshava, you cannot even understand the intellect without forming words and letters. And that happens in Machshava, so they are like two close friends. So the relation from intellect to thought is very near, very close. So Machshava is the first garment to intellect. And this is the level of Keruv, closeness. In Machshava, you have the entire intellect in its completion. So thought has everything that the Seichel, that specific idea, Machshava encompasses it all, has within itself the entire idea. On the other hand, Dibu does not have it, speech does not have it. Speech only reveals part of the intellect. So we answer the question that we asked yesterday. Yesterday we asked, comes the Arizal and tells us that the Ein Sof is feeding, giving, Keser, and Chochma bekiruv mokem, with closeness. And he gives Bina from afar, and emotions through a window, Malchus through a puncture, a hole. And Atzilus feeds the world of emanation, feeds the worlds of creation, formation, action through a partition. We ask the question, what do you mean far and close? In the heavens, everything is, there's no mokim. Mokim is only in physical world, time and space. So the answer is that it's only, brings the Rambam, that when we say mala, mata, higher and lower, we're only referring to levels of revelations. So the Chacham is more intellect, viltem, than the commoner. Doesn't mean that he's somewhere 10 feet high and the other guy is 5 feet low. They're all in the same place. Physically, they're in the same place. But intellectually, the Chacham receives more, understands more than the commoner.
Yeah.
So for our discussion, Chochmah receives more, and Keser receives more than Bina. And if we call it Mala Mata, one superior to the other. That's what it boils down to. We shall continue. To be continued.